Sup humans, today I wanted to do some experimental eyeliner and have a bit of fun with that, so I thought for today's video I can just show you guys an e-girl makeup look and hopefully you guys will enjoy this. The first thing I did was just take my NARS concealer and put some on my eyelids, and then I used a beauty blender to blend out all of the concealer. I did this so that I had a nice base to work on with any further eyeshadow that I was going to do later. You could also just use an eyeshadow base though if you want to do that instead. Next, I used this pink shade from the White Peach palette from Too Faced. I applied it using this fluffy blending brush just to give myself a little bit of a base to work with. I usually use the nude shade, but today I wanted to give it a little bit more of a pink look because I feel like e-girl makeup has a lot of pink in it a lot of the time, so I just did that on both sides and then blended it out a little bit. I did this because I find it easier to build up the colors if you just start with a light shade and then start working in darker shades. After I applied that, I used the Just Peachy palette from Too Faced as well, and I then applied the shade Peach Punch. This is one of my favorite shades, honestly. It's kind of like a mix between coral and pink. I started with the outer corner of my eye just because that means the most pigment is placed at the outer corner and therefore that's where it's most concentrated, and that was kind of my goal because it gives it a bit more dimension, I find. And I just blended that into my crease and then started winging it outwards so that I got sort of a sharper edge. Afterwards, I just worked in this darker shade as well, once again starting on the outer edge and working inwards. As you can see, I kind of do a mix between swirling and tapping motions because I find it easier to get more pigment off of the brush when you initially tap the brush, but it's easier to blend the eyeshadow in with the swirling motions, I find. Then I used this flat brush and took this nude shade, also from the Just Peachy palette, and I applied that on my lid, starting from the inner corner. Afterwards, I took a makeup remover wipe and just cleaned up all the fallout because I somehow always end up with a ton of fallout. Then I used this small little brush from Real Techniques and this other very light nude shade from the Just Peachy palette, and I put that under my waterline, and I think this just gives it a nice color transition. Then I worked in the darker shade that I used earlier in my crease, also towards the outer corner, so that I got a bit of an ombre effect, going through from a lighter shade on my inner corner to a slightly darker shade on the outer corner. I tried to make sure that the line remained fairly thin because I find if it gets too thick, it often makes your eye look really small. If it gets too thick, you can always just clean it up with a Q-tip. At least that's what I do. I feel like the most well-known part of e-girl makeup is just having super thick black eyeliner, so obviously I needed to use that. I guess it's sort of the main reason I decided to do this makeup look because I wanted to have some fun with eyeliner. I like making my wings by pretty much forming a little triangle, coloring the triangle in, and then turning the upper corner of the triangle into a curve that goes towards the inner corner of my eye. I then obviously repeated the same thing on the other side, and I also turned on the fan because it was boiling hot outside and I did not like it. So I just turned on the fan, which is why my hair started flickering. After getting a nice and sharp eyeliner wing, I decided to also put some eyeliner in the inner corner of my eye and basically make a little line going down and then a curve going underneath towards the waterline. I feel like I've seen a lot of e-girls have this, so I thought I would try that out. I think it works out easier if you keep the line relatively short. At least on my face it works out easier that way, but I suppose it kind of depends on your own face and nose placement relative to your eyes. After finishing the inner corner, I decided to start having more fun and made a darker line under my waterline on my right eye, curving it outwards. And then on the bottom lash line, I also added a bunch of thinner, smaller eyeliner strokes, which are basically a good way of imitating fake lashes, even though it's very obvious that they're not real. But I honestly think the small lines add a lot of detail to your eyeliner, so I think it's a fun addition to do. I think one of the classic e-girl things is just to have a lot of experimental eyeliner, I guess, and a lot of very thick, heavy black eyeliner. On my left eye, I then decided to do something slightly different, and instead of making the same curve that went down, I made more of a line that went across. This took me quite a long time, if I'm being honest, because I guess I was just kind of having fun with it and I kept wanting to correct stuff. A lot of this was just done by making arbitrary random strokes and seeing how it works and then fixing anything I didn't like. I think one of the keys of making e-girl eyeliner is honestly just keeping things slightly messy, because that's kind of the whole vibe of e-girl makeup usually, is to have everything be slightly messy, so it's totally fine if everything's not perfect. Once I finished up that eyeliner, I took my NARS concealer because I was a genius and totally forgot to do my under eyes before adding the eyeliner. I just covered up my under eyes and tried to work around the eyeliner, which you should totally do beforehand, unlike me. And I also added concealer on my chin and my forehead. Next, I once again blended that out using my beauty blender that I pretty much always use. After that, I took the Anastasia Beverly Hills eyebrow pomade. This is my favorite eyebrow pomade, honestly. I love working with this. And I always put it on my hand to basically make the concentration a little bit less on the brush. And then I started working from the outer edge of my eyebrow towards the inner part of my eyebrow by making a bunch of smaller strokes that are meant to sort of imitate your actual eyebrow hairs. Since my eyeliner was quite heavy, I used more than I usually do because I feel like otherwise the relation between your eyebrows being very light and your eyeliner being super dark tends to work out very poorly. So I tried making it darker than I would usually make it so that there was some sort of balance between the two, and it didn't totally look like I had no eyebrow hairs. For the same reason, I decided to then use this Maybelline black eyebrow pencil to make the hairs even darker and give them more of a black shade than the typical dark brown that I'd usually use that just the eyebrow pomade gives you. After that, I used this NYX translucent powder and a little fluffy brush from Real Techniques to set in all of my concealer. Afterwards, I took my Tarte bronzer and this fluffy brush and started working in the bronzer in sort of a 3 shape where you start at your forehead and then you go in, obviously on your cheeks and also on your jawline to pretend like you actually have a jawline when you don't, like me. Next, I used this pink cream highlighter. I decided to use this cream highlighter also because I liked the fact that the pink matched the pink of my eyeshadow, and for some reason I just associate e-girls with a lot of pink, so I tried to keep everything sort of pink and kind of nude. I ended up working this pink highlighter onto the top of my cheekbones and the top part of my nose, and then I just blended that in a little more with my hands and then afterwards also with a beauty blender. I also decided to go in with some more Kat Von D highlighter because another thing that I always notice with e-girls is that they have very heavy highlighter. I basically used the cream highlighter to work as an extra glue for the powder highlighter. For once in my life, I used blush, which I almost never use. And I've never used this blush before, but turns out I really like this blush, honestly. So that was kind of an interesting experiment for me. And I just put a little bit of that on my nose and on my cheeks. Afterwards, I took this lip liner from Marc Jacobs and just applied that on my lips. My camera died at this point, so kind of didn't get to film that. But after that, I used the Pat McGrath lipstick, and I also mixed that with another shade of more orange MAC lipstick that I had, so that I got the tone that I really wanted, which was sort of a mix between a berry red and orange. And to add more lipstick shades, I then proceeded to use a little bit of this Fenty lip gloss because light reflects differently on lip gloss, obviously, and I just think it adds a really cute dimension that looks especially nice on photos if you were to take photos afterwards. And because e-girl makeup tends to be a little bit messier, I then also blended all of that out together with my finger so that you had sort of a bit of a messy lipstick look rather than the sharp edges that I typically do. So I got even hotter, so I tied my hair up. But after that, I used my Bad Girl lashes from Benefit to put on some mascara. Honestly, looking back at it, I would probably add more mascara because I just think the eyeliner is so heavy that I could have used more mascara or some fake lashes or something. But that was what it was. After that, I decided to go in once more with my Maybelline eyeliner and make my waterline super dark. I had a dark waterline and some eyeshadow underneath and then eyeliner underneath the eyeshadow. I just think this gave it a really interesting look, which is why I decided to do that. And finally, I finished it all off with my Urban Decay setting spray that I always use. And we're done. This was kind of fun for me to do. I think next time I'll just make both eyes the way that I made my left eye in this video, but it was fun to try with the right eye as well. I hope you guys kind of enjoyed this video. I'm not sure if this was interesting to you, but I hope it was. Bye!